Welcome everyone to the semifinals of the Ireland Esports Collegiate League. I'm Invective, joined as usual by Deadly Ghost, but also extraordinarily by the Real Control, who is one of our wonderful players here in this league. And we're looking forward to some incredible matches today here in the semifinal.
Hello, welcome everyone. Like Invective said, I'm Deadly Ghost. I'm very excited to see the Real Control here. Sadly, the Real Control just missed out on making our semifinals. However, he has expressed some enthusiasm in casting the semifinals, so we were very happy to have him on. Very excited to have him here. So, Control, how are you feeling today?
Oh, thanks. Well, first of all, thanks for having me co-host this. I'm honestly really looking forward to seeing the semis. Three games, it's gonna be three brilliant games. I'm kind of looking forward to see who's gonna make the finals soon. I don't wait. When's the finals again? I think should be in about 2 weeks, if I'm right. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to three really good games of TFT in our group. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, so this is going to be the finale for, set 13 as we know it. We may or may not be able to play the finals of this tournament on set 13, but that is TBA. As for right now, we are loading up these three incredible games of TFT, and we on this stream will primarily be focused on the second lobby of the day, which includes our players: Big D, May, Parsival, Silver, Crazy, Wiglor, Body Shot Ben, and Can Need Shy Shy. These are players that we've been able to follow this season and in seasons past. Really excited to see what they have to bring to the table, and especially for players such as Wiglor, who we've been able to follow in the past few weeks of competition as they make a run for this top 16. So, really excited to see that Wiglor, for example, has made it to this level.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see someone like Wiggler, who we joked about, being the gatekeeper to the top 16, and then had an amazing last 2 weeks and just skyrocketed himself up to like an eighth or ninth. So that was really amazing to see. But another person who I am keeping an eye out on is going to be Parsival, who started out the tournament very strongly. Who was at one point leading the spring split, but now has still settled down into a very solid place here, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does as we have the Scuttle Puddle for game number one. So, Control, as someone who has played here, what does Scuttle Puddle entail here, and is there anyone you would think you would be keeping a close eye on who would think would thrive in Scuttle Puddle?
Personally, Skull Puddle is one of those really high eco and really high item encounters, and I do expect a lot of our players here going in. They're going to be trying to go for those really high level 8, level 9 boards, try and play late game. I don't expect that much eco rolling, to be honest. But I do expect that every player here, because it is semis, they'll find the best board they can with the items and character units that they get. And I am looking forward to seeing two players because I do know them personally, Big Dihi and Kankan. I am looking forward to see how they're playing out their boards personally now. So I will be keeping an eye on them too as well.
Yeah, Big D has had an extraordinarily split here in the Ireland Esports Collegiate Series. I think that in this lobby, they might be one of the ones to watch out for, but certainly all of these players have had strong performances.
Yeah, and looking at it here, Big D seems to have gone for a little bit of the Visionaries. Has that Renata in the shop as well. It's going to be interesting to see if Big D will buy it, or will Big D go for maybe something like the Black Rose, because we see the Cassiopeia there in on the bench waiting here as the first round of augments is coming in, and the Firelight Crest coming in here. However, he's not going to go for that. Instead, he's going to go for the Scapegoat, which is a very interesting augment. It's an economic augment on top of a very heavy economy game.
Yeah, I'm not incredibly pleased with that, but I don't mind it. That might be the safest augment to choose given the scenario.
Mm.
But we see a lot of our other players opting into some lines that give them very high upside. Cooking Pot is one of those lines where if you get a frontliner that stays in your composition the whole game online very quickly, that frontliner is going to just have so much value to add to the board. And in this particular case, I'm curious to see what it's going to be.
Personally, for me, if it was me in Cooking Pot, I would like to look at the Bruiser Mundo line because it is a very stable line, but it is more of like a single carry, and it is very hard until you can hit that Caitlyn though. But Cooking Pot, it is also a very good like scaling augment. There will be a really hard to deal with tank in late game, so possibly even two as well. So I would like to see how their players might face the late game possibilities of that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree
I'm
with you
with you.
there.
Go ahead.
100%. Yeah. So sorry there, Invictive. 100%. Definitely do like the Bruiser line a little bit more. However, because Set has been made a pit fighter for this patch, you don't really need two spatulas for 8 pit fighter, and the 8 pit fighter, while not as I think it's not as strong as it used to be. You can still get it with one additional emblem, and if you can get to those 8 pit fighters, if you can get to that Savika, you will 100% start doing a lot of damage. And because it is, Scuttle Puddle, you will have the opportunity to go to level 9 and you will have a lot more gold to roll down.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that is one high-end option for the player in question, the Cooking Pot player. Uh, Now, I think we gotta focus on what Wiglor is doing here. I think this setup
Yeah.
looks really solid for the early game. Being able to play this board with upgraded Darius, spending what I think Wiggler may have spent one roll. No. Was able to upgrade the Darius and then ultimately got to play this board with Sorcerer activated, with Watcher activated, and has some excellent early game slams. I think that this Darius is going to be providing so much value, and we can see the Pit Fighter spat slammed over on the other side.
Yeah, 100%. It's really good economy, and Wiggler is, like you said, is saving up these rerolls. Was able to naturally hit the Darius too, and also has Conquer there for that extra bit of loot to help him out. We do see that the Pit Fighter is can need Shy. But yeah, Wiggler is going to be keeping his 100 streak. The only person who is going to be keeping it, as Parzival did take a loss in that previous round. But looking at this carousel, it's going to be very interesting because usually people run for rods and bows, but the Kog'Maw with the bow is going to be left up until the end. So, Control, from your perspective, is this something that you usually do? Do you usually leave that bow if you don't need it, or do you just take it in case someone else really needs it?
Personally, the bow is a really good item in my opinion. It is a really nice item. I can get like a lot of nice items like red buff for possibly that burn, the anti-healing, or maybe Ginsu's to play for some like really strong sniper or like rebel comps like Zoe. Personally, I'm a little bit intrigued though as well because it is Kog'Maw with a bow. Even if you ignore the fact that you might not play Kog'Maw, it is still a fairly high valued unit. It is a very high value unit at stage 2 carousel, so a little bit surprised to see that it is taken very late, but still glad to see it's not the one that's not taken, I guess.
Yeah. As for this fight, we've gotten a chance to see Parzival get off to an early win streak after taking the first loss in the stage to Wiglor. I think that from the way the lobby's looking, there is going to be an interesting matchup coming up next where, Parzival is trying to keep their 4 streak and Wiglor actually lost their 3 streak at this point and is now no longer able to 5 streak. What the hell is in this shop?
Holy!
Excuse
I think
me?
that's an auto take. That's just an auto take. That is quite a sight to see, to say at least.
Yeah, that's really intriguing because I feel like when you have this situation with all of the extra gold that you get from Scuttle Puddle, this is a situation where Parzival you win the next round, you could potentially level on 3-1 and roll for the other two emissaries, and then you will have a board that just has an incredible amount of stats for that mid game. But look at this, the matchup against Body Shot Ben. This is not looking to be an easy one.
No, it really isn't looking like it. And the Gangplank got the Nashor's Tooth. Probably not an optimal item for him. Is going to be taking down that front line, but that Zyra with Sniper's Focus is just going to mow down everything. Or will she, as this Gangplank is heroically taking a stand, but in the end, Body Shot Ben will be taking down Parzival. And I'm a little bit confused because as soon as he bought those emissaries, they left the premises.
Yeah, I'm thinking that,
Oh.
with these items slammed, Parzival might be more inclined to play around Twitch, might be more inclined to play around, it could be artillerists, but we'll see how it all plays out. I just think that it doesn't fit quite as well with the standard backline AD carry of the emissary composition, which is going to be Corki.
Yeah, like the items he has here is definitely looking for more like a Tristana angle, especially with the Ginsus there. Since Corki, he can't get as much value out of Ginsus as like the Tristana can. So it is possible that he could pivot into the Tristana line, but we'll have to see. And we'll have to see his next augment pick and see what he decides to choose.
Yeah, Zeri is an appealing option here. There are 2 scars on the bench. Zeri could use these items reasonably well, but I don't know if Parzival's going to be super happy doing that with Slammin. So yeah, it really is like, I think that Parzival is sort of lasered in on this Twitch angle.
Yeah, it is definitely looking like it's going to go towards Twitch. You have the spatula as well, and you have a forger, so you can definitely make any, basically any of the 16 emblems that you can. So maybe it's going to go for the bruiser, towards the bruiser emblem. Maybe you could have definitely made the firelight emblem with that spatula, and you also have a glove. So I'm interested to see where this is going to go for Parzival, because he's still keeping his options open, and I think he wants to wait up until this next round of augments. And ladies, gentlemen, Demperors, a prismatic augment in a scuttle puddle, which means this gameplay is about to get a lot more crazy.
Yeah. So there's a lot of possible like really good augment picks for the prismatic augment. Could be a lot of like very valuable like attack like combat augments, like what we see here with the Ginsu's Reckoning.
Yeah, I think that the variety of prismatic augments will sort of reveal the priorities of our players here. I think Parzival, and the other player that we saw were well within their rights, Body Shot Ben, to take Radiant items that allow them to try to extend their streaks. And in the case of Body Shot Ben, taking Pandora's might allow them to play for better itemization in the long run by, being able to make the items they want while continuing to win streak. That being said, some of our other players are opting for more value. You see bulky buddies over on the side of, I can't tell which player this is, but that Twitch board is going to look very scary down the line.
Yeah, so that's Can Need Shy, who also has the cooking pot. But yeah, that's going to be an augment to sort of go a little bit further into the late game. And here, Silver went for Tiniest Titan after getting a pretty hefty beatdown, I would say, in the early game. But now this board at level 7 already on 3-3 is looking very, very strong for Silver. And I think if this board can evolve, if you can get this Vi, this Savika in, you can probably get a lot of pit fighter value, or these items are actually consistent with a Jinx board, so maybe we'll see something more towards the Jinx line, or maybe even a Corki.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where this all goes, because I feel like Silver has a lot of econ loaded up in this game, and that is a situation where you need to be able to turn it around at some point, because you aren't going to be getting that much combat value out of the combination of what doesn't kill you and Tiniest Titan. So where's Silver gonna go with all this? Well, there are more spatulas, more pans on offer for this carousel. So some of our players who were dropped these from their gold orbs are gonna have the opportunity to upgrade them into tactician's crowns or other tactician accessories. That being said, they've all been taken already.
So I don't know if Control saw what I saw. However, Wiglor has taken a spatula, and if for those of you who didn't notice it, Wiglor already has a Rebel spat on his board. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying we might see a 10 Rebel game, but
But
in
we might.
game one of the semifinals, we might be going towards a 10 Rebel game.
Personally, I am very looking forward to Wiggler right now, personally, because Rebel board, I personally do believe it is a fairly good board, and to see 10 Rebel possibly in game one, that would be a great opening to watch.
Yeah, I think Wiggler setting themselves up really well for the future here also. If you look at the upside of what they're currently holding on their item bench, they have a lesser champion duplicator and a regular champion duplicator, which means that if they want to stabilize on level 8 and then push to level 9, then push to level 10, to be able to play for the cap of 10 Rebel, they have the opportunity to roll relatively lightly and get to that outcome. They are not going to have to spend all the gold in the world. And look at their first augment. Look at all the rerolls they've been able to save up from trade sector. I feel like this is a situation where all of the pieces are going to come together. They could also totally play for something like a 3-star forecast by using all of these extra rolls. So it remains up to them to play it the way that they want to play it.
Yeah, this is. I'm getting really excited because we mentioned Wiglor as someone to watch Invective, and I think 100% it's we were right to keep an eye on him because this is looking to become such a crazy board going up against the counterpart in Crazy, who has a Sniper's Focus and the Radiant Rage Blade on a Nocturne. So that's uh, a very Crazy's namesake board in its own right. But like we said, Wiggler is not too bothered by losing a few rounds here and there because it is the Scuttle Puddle. You're going to get so much gold, and look at that, already halfway to level 8 on the on 3-7, you're already ahead of a lot of people here. So I think Wiggler might be risking it for the biscuit.
Yeah, I do think that because it's Scuttle Puddle and also picking Trace Sector as his first augment, he has a lot of that extra eco power for that level 8 stabilization for the Rebel board. Because for level 8 on Rebel, I do believe that you do need to try at least fight a 2-star Zoe and a Lai. And all that extra gold that he's getting, he has a really good chance of stabilizing it. As we can see right now, he's just leveled up to level 8 and he's starting to roll down to find some of those 2-star units.
Yeah, the Heimerdinger 2, I think, is actually a really great pickup. You have the Vex in the shop as well. You are going to be able to play a competent visionary board if you make this little pivot with the items you got from 1 buff, 2 buff. And then at this point, it's just up to you to carry this to level 9, I think.
Yeah, 100% looking at it here is going to use oh, excuse me, the Shojin and the blue buff. So this is a lot of mana generation, but because because the Rebel proc gives you so many stats, you can get away with it here, and we're seeing it here. Heimerdinger 2, and still has 40 gold left in the bank. So Wiggler here is definitely ahead of everyone else. Level 8, 50 gold now after that round. And we're going into gold augments as well, and big grab back coming in here. So basically, it's almost like triple utility here for Wiggler, but it's working out so much for him.
Yeah,
Not
this
also
is
to
one of the.
mention,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. Now, I was just looking at the items that he got from the big grab bag as well. There is already that second. There's that bow, possibly ready for seven rebels just to force it and possibly just ease in through and just like have Silver able to hold on the board for a time being, and then just try to stabilize an eco to go to level 9 right now. That is a possibility for him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that that is exactly what you see him doing, setting up that 7 rebel situation. But as you look around, a lot of other players are entering very strong positions. Body Shot Ben has a well-balanced sorcerer board here, but now going up against Wiggler, I fear there might not be enough damage to take down this 3-item Malawi to deal with the stacking damage of time of this Malzahar. And now that you have 7 rebel, you know, the stun is going to be affecting that whole board, cuts your DPS. This fight's not looking all that close.
Really not close at all. And Body Shot Ben, in his own right, still hasn't really rolled down himself. However, I think Wiggler is in a much better position because he already has a 2-star forecast. And Body Shot Ben, sooner than later, is going to have to roll down at least a little bit in order to find a 2-star forecast, because right now he seems to be a little bit more focused on leveling, but he's probably going to just try and get to that level 9 because you have so much econ. And while I do think that it's the right move, you still need to stabilize a little bit because Mai already has a LeBlanc and what looks like a 6 sorcerer 4 emissary board, so you already have a couple of people who are better itemized and better at playing your comp than you.
Yeah, that
Also,
is a
not to
big
mention,
concern.
just
No,
also to mention, Miles has that 2-star backline at least there with 2 Shojins, so that at least could do a lot of damage in a very fast amount of time.
Mm. I think that that is absolutely one of the concerns there. It's going to be a 4 emissary. Yeah, it's not quite 6 sorcerers at this point, but I love the itemization, being able to use the Elise while you have all of this extra frontline. I want to point out a few things. Crazy is setting up for this like really scary Nocturne in the late game, but if you look at May's bench, they're also holding 4 Nocturnes. So that is one of the impediments that they're putting in the way of Crazy. And we got to look at Shy Shy, who is on the ropes, trying to close out this game, and is at a very low HP total, but does have that cooking pot, could be stacking HP on these bruisers. At the same time, Silver is already level 9, so I'm curious to see eventually what they're going to be able to put together at this level 9 stage. It's gonna be 8 pit fighters.
Yeah, it is a pit fighter, I believe. Silver got a spatula from at least one of the spatulas from the carousel back in stage 3, so does manage to get 8-bit fighter online, but Crazy already hitting the Nocturne 3, so my definitely doesn't need to hold those Nocturnes anymore. But looking at it here, it's the 2 bruiser boards going up against each other. So Can versus I don't remember who else had these items, but one board has a Caitlyn, the other board has a Jace, and the problem is, while you do have a 2-star Mundo, there's a 2-star Twitch and the Caitlyn just mowing down your entire front line and back line, and Can is going to be going out in 8th place in this game number 1. It's a little bit of an unfortunate set of circumstances, as Parsible is the person to take them out.
Yeah. I think this is an unfortunate moment where Ken ended up taking some combat augments, but got outpaced by people with econ augments and stronger early game and mid game spots. I think you can't afford to go on a loss streak like this unless you are going to be able to turn the ship around some later point down the road. And unfortunately, Ken didn't have that opportunity. But our other players are certainly all in contention for victory here because these boards are really intimidating.
Yeah, looking at it here, we have Last Chance, we have Grow in Size. Brutal Claws for the Nocturne is just incredible there, looking at it. It's going to be so difficult to fight Crazy as anyone else in this lobby, as we're seeing Big D as well with the Black Rose Sorcerer. So 3 people contesting each other on the Black Rose Sorcerer line, and Parsival with Brutal Claws as well on this Twitch, which is probably the best one to get for Twitch, as he attacks units at random, and so those critical strikes are going to be bleeding out each and every person on the back line.
Yeah, this composition, we know that Twitch carries a huge amount of the load for this composition before you're able to activate Caitlyn, particularly Caitlyn 2. And I think you can see just how much work this Twitch does when you're able to stack so much power onto one of these units, right? When you're able to stack that radiant item, when you're able to stack that anomaly. But as you look around, there are a bunch of players with very powerful positions. Wiggler didn't manage to get to level 9 just yet, but look at this. It's a Jinx 2, and she's got a comeback story to tell.
So Control, if you're Wiggler here, because we already know that you've told us that you are a Rebel enjoyer in your own right, and you've played the comp quite a bit. You're Wiggler here, you already have the units necessary to get to 10 Rebel. Are you risking it for the biscuit here? Because you do need to survive a couple of rounds. So do you use a couple of these rerolls to try and find maybe another 2-star 4 cost, or do you just massively level up and try to get to level 10 as quickly as possible?
Personally, with the board like quality that Wiggler has right now, he has hit all those 2-star like forecasts, even a 2-star Jinx at level 8. He has used that Nico to on the Jinx for the 2-star her at level 8 so that he can stabilize, and also with comeback story that Jinx will do a lot of damage, but we have to see here if Caitlyn gets a snipe, and holy Jinx just melted the entire board.
How did Alawi just come back onto the field? I'm not sure exactly what happened there. But that's a victory for Wiggler. It's a really important victory because, you know, you need every single one you can get in order to find level 10 here.
Yeah, you 100% do, but I think Wiggler just did a very smart decision there, elevating his board to 4 Sentinel, and that Alawi 2 is already going to be tanky and have that Rebel proc, but having 4 Sentinel for those extra resistance is just going to help you out that just that extra little bit. And this is probably the board that Wiggler does not want to go up against, because Crazy's Nocturne can do so much damage to the front line and just delete it. Crazy is going to be going up against Parzival, who has this Twitch and Caitlyn, and if this Nocturne goes on the Mundo, then that Mundo is going to tank up quite a bit. However, the Quick Strikers are very true to their namesake, and the whole front line is deleted. However, this Caitlyn being the hero there, taking out Crazy.
Yeah, it's a
I
fight
thought-
that was on a razor's edge.
That felt like a back and forth fight, to be honest. Caitlyn just barely holding out last second, getting rid of that Twisted Fate.
Yeah, it came down to the wire. I think that, you know, there's one thing that Crazy's board currently lacks. Well, he was also able to find the Ambessa 2 on this turn, but if you look at it, doesn't have Shred for the moment. Doesn't have, you know, Sunder, the ability to reduce the enemy armor. So Mundo tanked up for, like Deadly Ghost said, a little bit too long, and then the snipers were able to do a comparable amount of damage. Body Shot Ben is someone we haven't seen for a little while. He was on his way to level 9, but now look at the situation. Had to anomalize the Swain, and hasn't been able to find the emissaries that make this board so strong, because so many of the players in the lobby are contesting units like Garen, are contesting units like Ambessa, and now in the matchup against Big D, what is mostly a mirror matchup, it's looking very close, but it's a victory for Body Shot Ben.
And you're seeing it there. The LeBlanc from Big D was put down in the middle. So that means even though it was a one star LeBlanc from Body Shot Ben, it managed to do so much damage to Big D because it took out the LeBlanc early, and the other LeBlanc too did not get to do the same thing. So a little bit of a happy little accident for Body Shot Ben there, but capitalizing very nicely on that in the mirror matchup.
Yeah, the HP totals are getting closer. Parzival, Body Shot Ben, Big D, all within 1 or 2 lives, and a second anomaly has hit the field.
Ooh,
I think you
if
have to
you're
take Fisher here.
yeah, I was going to ask you what do you even look for here as Body Shot Ben, but probably Finisher. Another one I really like to take in the sorcerer comp is I forgot the name of the anomaly, but the one where you chill enemy units, and when you kill the chilled unit, it stuns everyone
Touch of
else around them.
Frost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Touch of Frost.
Yeah.
That one can have very good effect on LeBlanc or on Zoe, because it has a lot of you have a lot of targets that you're hitting here, as we're seeing protective shielding here coming in for Crazy. Now, this is something that can probably help him out quite a bit. And we have Stone Skin for Mundo, which is another very powerful one, especially if you're going up against someone like Crazy.
Yeah, Parsifal's now on the ropes against Big D. The Elise is about to cast, but is she going to get an impactful stun off on that backline? Not quite, but Twitch has had the time to scale up, is untouched by all of those AP casters. If LeBlanc doesn't take him out right now, it's going to be lights out for Big D, and another Sorcerer player, Body Shot Ben, unfortunately meets their end here as well.
I mean, call Parsifal's Twitch Patrick Swayze, because he's had the time of his life deleting all of this backline sorcerers there, and even on the frontline units, the frontline Elise for Parsifal proving much better than the backline Elise for Big D over there, and certainly having an incredible impact in that fight.
Yeah. Now it looks like Wiglor is going to be up against Parsifal, and who do you have in this matchup, Control?
I do believe now, because Jinx and Zoe's positioning is perfect for against the Twitch. You can see the Jinx just stunning the Twitch. Zoe's on the same side, should be able to get damage very fast, and the stun as well with the ults. Yep, pretty easy fight for Wiggler there.
That was a crazy amount of damage the Jinx was able to put out. Nothing Wasted is such a good augment on the Zoe, right?
Yep, it is. And also because of Skull Puddle, you can get 2 item anvils, and that does mean you could possibly replace that blue buff or that static stiff on the Zoe to something more powerful like the Archangels or the Joe Gauntlet as well. Or you could possibly look out for a bit more Shred or Sunder for the front lines.
Now, if my math is correct, and it usually is very correct, in one round's time, Wiggler will be able to get to level 10. And that
I think he's
means that means come next round, we are going to be having a 10 level board. Never mind, he's just gonna do it right now. He's going to level up to 10. He's going to field the 10 rebels, and this is my absolute favorite comp to play in the set. And I'm so happy that we get to see the prismatic iteration. 10 rebels is online. You would need something along the likes of a 3-star 5 cost to be even able to contest here. The smoke signal triggers so often, your units get so many stats and HP. And are we looking at a Wiggler first here?
I have to say
Yeah.
that's looking most likely. I mean, Real Control, you might want to point out that we haven't been able to see Silver spot for a little while. We know they're rocking with the 8 pit fighters, but I feel like the 8 pit fighters are generally not able to take down a board of this strength.
Yeah, I don't believe that 8 pit fighters are strong enough. We'll have to see if the Savika and the Vibe will take down his Eloy fast enough. But there is that stun at the start of combat, so we'll have to see.
Now,
Well,
there is a silver lining there in the Savika, that she has basically a second life on that Savika in the Edge of Night. However, unless you get the flamethrower a couple of times, I don't think that Savika alone can delete the whole board here.
Well, I think we're going to get the answer now to our questions as they have just matched up, and we'll see how the fight goes.
yeah, Jinx is going to get the ult off,
Oh.
and Savika has another life, but no one else on the team does. That's going to be a resounding defeat for Silver, and now the question is, how are the matchups going to work out? Who gets to live and who will not be spared from the wrath of Wiglor? It looks like Crazy is up next, and I hope he's not dying from 19 HP, because that would be tough.
I think because it is stage 6, if Crazy
Oh,
loses, one gold off of the Rel 3. This
that
is so unlucky for Crazy. I think
that is
if it's an 8-unit loss, then Crazy is out. But if it's not an 8-unit loss, he should still be alive. But the Victor as well coming in for Wiglor, this is going to be a very tough fight for him.
I personally do not see Wiggler being able to trade enough units. I think if there's 7 units left alive on Wiggler's board, he's eliminated, as we will see right now.
Wow. That is an incredible swing in momentum at this stage. Crazy being taken down at 19 HP. It's one of those benchmarks where you feel like you have 2 lives. But in this case, it's really only 1. And there's a Rebel emblem going over to Wiglor's side. You don't have to take it. You have the option of taking something like the Victor with the Fireland emblem. You get even stronger. You have a chance of hitting the Victor too to really just cap off this game. But, I mean, come on.
This is just a victory lap here for Wiglor at this point, is really smart about it. Keeps a couple of Civikas on his bench because Silver has hit 6 Civikas right now. So, getting that extra Victor. I'm surprised he hasn't put the Firelight emblem because he already have the echoes. He
He's
would
just
have had
gambling with it,
Firelight.
man. He's just gambling with
It's
it.
just a victory
Yeah.
lap.
Silver sold all of his board, but I guess he didn't scout out that there were 2 Civikas already on Wiglor's board, and that means that Wiglor is going to be taking the victory in our lobby number 2 in game 1 with the 10 rebels in the blue signal lighting up every 12 seconds, and congratulations to Wiglor on a very well played game number 1.
Yeah, we know Wiglor has been able to come into form late in this season, struggled early on, but now we're like fully activated. The bad games have been sacrificed to Mortdog, and now we only get the good games. But I want to talk about, it's not just luck. Wiglor recognized that their spell wasn't really strong enough to send it to level 9 in the middle of stage 4, in the start of stage 5. We saw Wiglor make the decision to roll down to find the upgrades that they needed in order to get to that position. And then they trusted in the strength of their board when they were at level 850 gold to be able to push to the finale. So I think it is all around a display of skill in the sense that knowing your board strength is one of the most important skills, and measuring your board strength up against the board strength of players who also have like very high cap boards in Scuttle Puddle, who have taken their 1 or 2 econ augments, who have things like 8-Pit Fighter. It's not a small feat to be able to 5-streak your stage 5 and then run away with the game from there.
No, it really
Yeah.
isn't. And Wiglor did find his position at level 8, found every character that he needed to be 2 stars before equaling up to level 9 and level 10 to end out with the 10 Rebel. And I think it was a really good, like, he was watching really well on all the boards around the entire game, and he did find that angle to go to level 10.
Yeah, I'm going 100% agree with you guys. Roll down to find that Jinx 2, got that Zoe 2 as well, and very efficiently and very smartly played towards the strength of the 7 Rebel board in order to get to 10 Rebel. We are going to be going to a very short break, but first we have to give a very big shout out to our sponsors, without whom the Ireland Esports Collegiate Series would not be happening. So a very big shout out to Dogpatch Labs, Coca Noodles, Stack, GG Machines, Play8, and Logitech. Don't go too far. We'll be back with game number 2 very shortly.
You radiate with light. Our hearts dance.
I got dreams of looking up, highs I can get, but nothing feels like how it feels to know these things I don't know yet. The weight of everything, and everything's just thread. Sometimes I'm trapped inside and I don't know what I'm gonna do. But to take on the world is the only thing that we know how to do. I've got dreams of finding out what all of this is for. It's you and me, and everywhere we go it leads to an open door. We made our mistakes, the good and bad days, but nothing really breaks if I got you. Look at the sky when you go outside, and know there is nothing to keep me back from you. I got dreams of finding out what all of this is for. It's you and me, and no, there is nothing. And everywhere we go, we're leading to an open door. Keep me back, keep me back from you. Keep me back, keep me back, keep me
I lied awake for days, counting all the ways I died. Everything I couldn't save, buried down, still half alive. It's got me crawling in my skin, but no one's coming out to hold me close. Pouring out the gasoline, yeah, I've been making friends with all these girls, and I got nothing left to lose. Fight to the future. It's not me to turn and run. Met the bitter truth and I choked it down. Left a bad taste on my tongue, but my appetite's been growing now. I can see you crawling in your skin, but no one's coming out to hold you close. I'm pouring out the gasoline, so say hello to all my ghosts.
Hey, we had an awesome game one here in the Ireland Esports Collegiate Series for the semifinals. Wiglor took a resounding victory with 10 Rebels, beating out 8 Pit Fighters, beating out ranged Nocturne. But we're back for game 2, and our players have more stories left to tell. Right now, I'm joined by the Real Control, and Deadly Ghost is going to be right back.
Yep, game 1 was definitely a sight to watch. The 10 Rebel board ending out was as a Rebel player, it was brilliant to watch. It was definitely a great way to start off the series now as we head into game 2. And yep, I'm looking forward to seeing what the players will do this time.
Yeah, I wanna know what portal it is, for one thing. I think that could really inform some of those decisions. And yeah, the Prismatic Prelude is one of those situations where you've got to be thinking about the relative power of that augment, the expected value of that augment, relative to what else you could be getting in the game. So that is one of those situations for sure. You got to be thinking very hard about this augment.
Yep, Prismatic Prelude could determine a lot. It could determine if you want to play it on a reroll style, like for example, someone did like the Exalted Adventure, or if you want to just play scaling, and it does have a lot of power as well for the early game as well. So we'll see how players decide to treat it.
And
Yeah,
here I am
it is
looking
gonna
at.
be-
Go ahead.
Ooh. It is going to be an econ opener. It is going to be, a few very appealing 2-cost drops here for Body Shot Ben. Those Tristanas are kind of looking at me funny.
Yeah, those Tristanas are looking very menacingly, and I see a couple of Sentinels, and Sentinel Crown has been taken. So it's looking a little bit like it's going to go towards 4. See, I thought first that we were going towards 4 Visionaries, 2 Sentinel, but then we completely revamped the board for Body Shot Ben as I think he has some decisions to make. But yeah, I was going to say who's going to be going for those emblems, and more importantly, who's going to be going for that Rebel emblem.
Yeah.
But-
Can does
yeah.
have going long here. I think that this is one of those situations where, this is sort of a top 4 augment. I don't think this augment frequently wins the game unless you're able to extend your win streak by a long margin. But this opener is reasonably strong. Sunfire being the slam that we have, it's one that, you're very satisfied with in the early game.
Yeah, Concon going long. It does say though he has to have a really strong early game, because if you don't have a really good game where going long, if you lose your win streak, that does mean that you do lose that eco. Because don't forget, going long, you don't get any interest at all. So the only gold you're getting really is just the win streaks. If you break out like nowhere, like for example, you just go on a 5 win streak, then you just lose 1 round. Even if you go back on a win streak, that's a lot of gold lost during that time.
Now this is an interesting one from Silver. Went for Wandering Trainer, but has Chem Barons active, and doesn't have Chem Barons from the Wandering Trainer. So that's very interesting. As we're seeing Mai with Hedge Fund and Sorcerer Crown for Big D. So Big D is moving into those sorcerers quite a bit in the semifinals, and Enforcer Crown here for Crazy. And I very much like Enforcer Crown. I think 8 Enforcer is very strong, especially on this patch. If you can get that emblem on an Ambessa or a Civica or maybe an early Rumble, then you can have such a huge impact here and have a very good game here.
Yeah, I think important to note, Mai doesn't just have Hedge Fund. Mai has Chem Barons. So we have 2 Chem Baron players in the early stage of this lobby, and we gotta see, are they going to manage to grief each other? To what lengths will they go to cash out their Chem Barons? And as for Mai, I think that this might just be some of the most gold I've ever seen in a stage 2, particularly for stage 2, 3. So how much interest are we going to be making? And does that mean that we're going to hit like a 3-star 2-cost on like stage 3, 5? Or alternatively Smeech at the start of stage 4? Or are we going for the 3-star 5-cost?
I personally do want to see Mai trying to go for those 3-star 5-cost late games. You're playing for Chem Baron. Like, if he does hit a lot of Smeeches, then he could also pivot into the Chem Baron ambushes line. But you have hedge fund, you can reach those high levels pretty fast, and you could afford to lose a bit of HP, possibly to look for that Silco, that's a Vika, those high cost Ken Barry units to really give your board a really high ceiling.
I think if you're going to go for that, you're going to need Tiniest Titan or the Chem Baron's Augment that allows you to heal up a little bit of HP, because without without an augment that's going to allow you to not take as heavy losses as you normally would, you would have to basically be extremely creative in your gameplay to take very few losses, and be careful not to break your loss streak, because otherwise it's gone and you can get much higher than a 400 cash out.
Yeah, I do want to point out there was a Rennie on this carousel. Silver was not denying it away from Mai. And I think that because Silver has visionaries in their Silver has visionaries in their wandering trainer, so I think their cash out is ultimately going to be playing around that Heimerdinger. Maybe you would want to take the Rennie with a rod, but letting it go to Mai is certainly an interesting decision because now Mai does have 4 Chem Baron active. The only potential downside could be in the mirror matchup. If you're playing 4 Chem Baron, your opponent is only playing 3, then you might end up winning.
So,
Yeah, 100%. It could be extremely difficult, but there are some ways you can interweigh the win, like frontlining your backlining your frontline, things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what Mai does, and how much scouting they will be doing here, as we're focusing a little bit more on Body Shot Ben right now, who has those Sentinel Visionaries, is looking towards that Morgana primarily, and it is looking, at least for now, that this Morgana is doing tremendous amounts of damage.
Yeah, now we have to wait for this matchup against Kankan. So Kankan is level 6, does have an impressively upgraded frontline, but the backline damage isn't quite there. I would love to see them protect their Sunfire a little bit more, change their frontline positioning a little bit, because that is how you are going to win this fight with a higher degree of probability against Body Shot Ben. And are we going to get that matchup? No, we're going to get the matchup against... I missed the player name. I believe it's Big D,
think
who
it's-
took immovable object and then sacked part of the round. So I wonder if they're targeting one of those Kemberg players.
So
correction, I think it's Parsifal that he's against.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
so it's Parsifal, but Parsifal did not use the immovable object. So I'm guessing Parsifal wanted to go for a four loss streak there, and for a 5 loss streak, and does manage to get it. And perhaps Parsifal is going to start trying to win in that stage 3 after these golems, but it's going to be very difficult to see. And I do believe we have the matchup of the Chem Barons between Silver and Mai, but Mai takes the loss, so keeps that 5 loss streak alive. And I believe that the Shimmer has now reached over 120 stacks. Oh, it's 165. So Mai is building up the economy, is building up the Shimmer value. So this is looking like a potential 500 or 600 cash out.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the potential of this game for Mai. Even if it's not a 500 cash out or a 600 cash out, just looking at this situation, the overall board must be strong because how much gold do we have? We have virtually infinite gold. And it might be looking a little bit dicey for now against these Krugs, but these units are very, very capable. You can make 80 gold if you're willing to drop the Camille's. Yeah, I love to see this gameplay. And the items, you're set up very well for a Heimerdinger cash out if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, looking at it here, it seems like there's a 2-star Morgana, there's a Nunu, so we're seeing a lot of, like you said, the Visionary Sentinels. Maybe you're trying to troll out Body Shot Ben here, or maybe you're just going to transition into those visionaries. As my puts down the blue buff and the rod here on the Morgana. So this is looking interesting. I mean, Mai is going up against some very strong people here. Is going up against Crazy, who has four enforcers, but I think it's a little bit risky what he's doing. But I think it's going to pay off in the end.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
2 kills here would be really amazing. Go for it, Control.
No, I was also just gonna say that by putting on the eyes on Morgana, he is trying to look for those trades because he has scouted out the board. He does see how weak his board is, and he's hoping that 2-star Morgana can help him trade out 2 or 3 characters just for that extra bit of health for possibly that really high cash out. And also, you can also see he's leaving on those visionary units, which means he could pivot into the Heimerdinger visionary line if he wants to.
Yeah, now we have a chance to look at these augments. Mai really wanted that mana flow, is angling for these visionaries that gain extra mana from all of this augment value, and the late game's looking really, really scary for many of these players, but there are some powerful options here for Kankan, who has continued their win streak. Body Shot Ben has been dethroned from that position, and some of these are looking really appealing. I think the Recombobulator might be speaking their name a little bit, but no. We aren't going to see that just yet. Some of our other players are going to come into some very powerful options. Body Shot Ben also taking mana flow, and yeah, that visionary angle looks like it's continuing, but Body Shot Ben doesn't have a single tier. And where are those Heimerdingers going to come from when Mai has 80 gold rolling level 4?
Well, one where we left Mai, he had 111 gold and about 7 tiers in his in his board. So that's where all of the tiers went for Body Shot Ben. They went over to Mai, and if Mai wants to just continue with those visionaries, 100% can. As we see, a lot of items have been made and have been put from Mai's end. You know, does have the blue buff, does have the Sunfire as well. So I don't think this loss streak is going to continue if we put the Sunfire on someone, because this board is already looking fairly solid for a level 6 board.
Yeah, I think as we move on here, Big D, the matchup, well, Big D does have relatively low HP, but having a 4-cost online, having 4 sorcerers with this Zoe, I feel like Morgana is not going to do quite enough damage to take this out. But hey, I've been wrong before.
Does look like it is coming to a pretty close round though, but Zoe getting that extra ult out and should just be enough damage to take out Mai's board.
Yeah, so Control, I don't know how much you've played of the Chem Barons, but if you are Mai in this position, are you looking to maybe level up to 7 and start rolling for that Silco, or are you hoping to get lucky on the carousel here, get a Silco?
I don't think I need to answer that anymore.
Yeah.
There's a Silco on the board, but it is
And
contested.
it's taken. Oh,
Wait, is it?
so now what do you do?
Wow.
Yeah, Mai went for the glove, went for the Mundo, I believe, and I think that sort of hedges their options a little bit. When you get to level 8, you start rolling for some of these carries that you need. Silco might be a little bit more of an option if you have this unit on your bench already. At the same time, I don't mind having the opportunity to slam a jeweled gauntlet either, so we'll see where that glove ends up going. Now Silver, I think Silver probably cashed out their Chem Baron streak, has that, what I believe, salvaged contraption, and this is no longer looking like a really compelling loss streak, but denying the Silco was really important, because if you let Mai accelerate, then your spot looks more and more like 7th or 8th place.
Yeah, 100%. The salvage contraption here is going to be very strong on the Rennie here. But if you are in this position here, Control, as Mai, like you said, do you actually try to level up? Do you actually want to maybe maybe roll down a little bit to put yourself in a little bit of a stable position? Because we have seen Mai lose quite a bit of HP. He's losing about 10 HP per round. So if he has about 10 losses, 3 losses left in him before he's one round loss away from being eliminated. So do you actually risk it a little bit to get to a higher cam burn, or do you just trust the process?
If I'm not mistaken there, yeah, my stacks aren't really that high, 300. And he does not have that Silco, which is super important for that 500 cash out. So, personally, if you don't look for that Silco right now, you will not have that room to lose your HP during stage 4, because you will lose minimum 9 HP per round because of the minimum 8 plus 1 unit. So, if I was my right now, personally, just take the 400 cash out. You have good items for the Heimerdinger for the Visionary line. You will be contesting though, but because of hedge fund, you have a lot of eco. Do mind that he has 100 gold right now, and he can go to level 8 possibly with about 100 gold to do a complete roll down, or he could just choose to go level 9 possibly, and then have a higher rate of forecast, and also possibly find that Malzahar as well at level 9, because there is a higher chance to find it at level 9 as well.
Well, if you win this round, you're not getting your cash out. That is one of the potential downsides here. I think that if you get to 5 Chem Baron on your roll down, you do have an opportunity to reach 400 Shimmer, and as a result of that, you are going to be able to reach this cash out eventually, no problem. This is a turn that is one of the more difficult turns in the game, because you're going to need to manage your bench. You are going to need to have a set of items you want to make in your mind as you see their drops come down from the wolves, and then you have to start stabilizing, because Mai has a lot of gold to spend. That doesn't mean that everybody is going to be able to spend it the same way with a 30-second turn. So I'm really interested in seeing what Mai is able to do with the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to see what Mike does here. I think the roll down has to happen. We're already seeing the Heimerdingers. We're already seeing a lot of the other units here. But
Oh.
so there are two ways you can go. You can go here as Mai, because you either keep the Chem Barons and try to go for a win streak 500 cash out, which is extremely risky, or you try to salvage what's left here, and just go for the 400 cash out, get what you can get in transition as quickly as possible into that Heimerdinger 6 visionary board.
There is something I'm a little bit confused about, is the fact I did see Silco in his shop, and if he did put on the Silco, even win or loss, he could have probably played 4 Visionary, 5 Cam Baron, get that forward cash out, and then afterwards play around the pivot back into the Visionary Cam Baron. So I'm a little bit surprised he didn't take it, but we can see what happens now after we look into the augments. And there is Void Caller.
Yeah, I mean, that is maybe one of those augments that you should just be inclined to take. You're playing 6 visionaries, therefore it's good. But there was a lot of appeal to me in those other 2 options as well. If you are able to play around reinforcement, you could have 5 Heimerdingers right now. You close out a player like Body Shot Ben, you have this economic advantage. You could potentially play for the 3-star forecast. Alternatively, there's another rationale for taking something like Blazing Soul, where you have all the econ in the world, you need a combat augment. So there were many potential good options there. We saw what Mai ultimately took and is going to try to close out the game with, but as you look around the rest of the lobby, it's getting stronger. Can already up to level 9, playing for a level 9 sorcerer board after that early win streak. You have Silver at level 8. Unfortunately, doesn't have all the visionaries they need, but playing this really interesting board that has a Twitch on it, because their Wandering Trainer is offering them experiment, and hey, you gotta flex when you can.
Yeah, 100%. It's a weird board from Silver, and he's probably going to be transitioning into the experiment bruiser line, but because you also have a 2-star a 2-star at least waiting here, but yeah, it's certainly looking a little bit more interesting for Silver. I think he's at 2 mines, and Mai went for the 400 cash out here. Has the 3-star Renata, has a couple of items. I forget the name of the item under Renata, but I know it's the one that deals periodic damage, and the 500 one was the one that stuns. This one doesn't, right?
I think it's what's it called? Perfected. That's toxins, I think.
Yeah, hey, I can't tell you the name either. I want to call it Virulent Virus. It's Unleash Toxins.
Unleash toxins.
I mean, attacks gain 5 bonus mana. That is a very, very ideal situation, and I love the way that Mai has optimized the items around that. Saving those items for so long, I wanted to see something like a Rabadon Slammed. I wanted to see something a little bit more aggressive, just to take more decisions out of the pool. But look, Mai had the right mindset of playing around the cash out, and I think it's been rewarded now. Ultimately ends up taking the Blanc. I think that is a worthwhile denial from some of these sorcerer players. Can was really looking for that, but there are three spatulas, 3 pans on this carousel as well, sort of a repeat of the last game. And what that means is you might see people start to activate those chase traits.
Yeah, 100%. Looking at it here, we have a lot of emblems and a lot of emblems that are being available to our players, and there are a lot of traits being played right now that require a +1 or a +1 that can make them, you know, a lot better. So I think Parzival would have definitely wanted to get a pit fighter here uh, for himself. Stuck a little bit on that 5 pit fighter, needs a Vi and or a Civica to get to that 6 pit fighter, and is going up against Mahi, who has this incredibly stacked up Renata and this Heimerdinger, who is just sending out these rockets 24/7 basically, not non-stop, especially if you get that Sin Shimmer buffing you up.
I think what's a bit more scary is the fact that I think that Mai's board, he has like a stage 5 board at stage 4. Like, and he also
Yeah.
has a ton of gold as we head into the anomaly section. He could basically take wherever he wants or roll down a lot, and he just decides to take whatever he could. Magic trading. Oh,
That seems very valuable in this particular position. 6 Visionaries Magic Training is an ideal position. Deep Roots for this Alawi, very, very solid setup for Wiglor, who is repeating the Rebel performance of the previous game, albeit with a few fewer emblems, and Dramatic Entrance is going to come through for Parzival. It's funny that it's on the Draven.
it's Draven time, baby.
Yeah. I mean, Wiglor is going for those rebels, and I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Wiglor is currently in first place. The anomalies have been hit, but I think Mai might want to contest for that number 1 slot, and Wiglor already has a spatula, so all he needs is a bow and an emblem from the next carousel, and we might just see a repeat of 10 rebels. However, the problem here for Crazy is he doesn't have that amazing economy as he did from last game, and this Jinx gets just focused down by this Ambessa too with the Enforcer emblem. So it all comes down to the Zoe. Will it be enough? I'm forced to eat my words because Zoe 2 is there to save the day.
Wiglor looking to repeat an excellent performance from the first game, and the real control you wanted to pop in.
No.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, Parzival taking a victory. I think that with the rig shop, with the immovable object, you really want to be able to find someone like Gangplank here on level 8. That Gangplank 3 could do a ton of DPS, but you are also sort of relying on the high roll for the Jace, right? We want to get to that 4 form swapper benchmark. It's something that we saw Vel'Kouzovite briefly close out the game in the other lobby with, but now you have a bigger challenge. Mai is looking extremely strong, and you need to find a solution to this player who's going to run away with the game.
I mean, he's not only going to run away with the game, he might just run away with all of the gold in this game as well, as 100 gold, level 9, and I don't know about you folks, but I think Mai might be going to level up to 10 next round and just start rolling down for 6 costs.
I think that is probably what's gonna happen. I mean, he basically took the bank with him for this game. I decided to go like, yeah, just let me level up. Let me buy your 6 costs.
Yeah, I personally want to see Mai be as greedy as possible. We've already seen him do a pretty successful roll down on 4-1. So if you wait until stage 6, like, you're probably not going to lose a round. If you lose a round, it'll be close. And then on stage 6, then you can spend a lot more gold rolling for all of those crazy win conditions that are basically just a victory lap.
Yeah, 100%. And like Control said earlier, he has a stage 5 board, and he already had it on stage 4, and now has that stage 5 board, and is just leveling it up by going to 9, going towards that level 10. We see 2 Savikas there for crazy, but is this going to be enough? Because the Caitlyn is yet to come in, the 8th Enforcer has not come in. Crazy has instead opted to go for the 4 Quick Strikers, but I don't think this is going to be enough, because looking at it here, it's so difficult, especially when that Heimerdinger is focusing down that Vi, who's supposed to be the big carry for this comp.
It was definitely a close round, but unfortunately, we have an elimination on the board.
Yeah, Big D is also going to go out in 7th. I think that's 2 rough games in a row for Big D. Someone who did really well in the regular season, but is now struggling in these semifinal games. It's unfortunate to see, but this is where the pressure starts to get ratcheted up. And Ken is having a better performance, getting to 6th place at the very least. And I feel like is relatively stable on level 9, but we're just sort of waiting to run into Mai here with 2 HP left in the pool.
Yeah.
At this point, if you're Kanka, you just have to pray that you don't meet Mai.
Oh, it is going to be a matchup between some of these 2 lower HP players. And who do you have taking this between Silver and Can?
I do think Kanka has it from the looks of it.
Yeah, the Bruiser emblem and the Garen with the extra HP does seem to be helping out quite a bit. However, this 2-star Twitch is just doing so much work, but I do think that maybe the Garen is just going to be able to tough it out and take.
I don't think he has
no.
it.
Oh my God!
Oh.
The rapid fire, it takes out Can, and Body Shot Ben also takes a big loss and is now down in 5th, 1 round from getting eliminated. So now, as the carousel round is approaching, Body Shot Ben and Silver are all down to 1 life. Meanwhile, Mai and Wiggler are having the time of their lives here in game number 2. And it's so difficult for anyone to contest these 2 in this lobby. And while I think that Mai is probably going to take the victory simply because of that large cash out, I think Wiggler is definitely trying to give Mai a run for his money.
Yeah, Wiggler is in a commanding position overall as we get our second anomaly of the game. I feel like Wiggler has the opportunity to greed for something a little bit better than the finisher. There's a finisher.
Oh.
Wait, I think this might be a dramatic entrance on the rel. That is really valuable. Getting more time for Renata, more time for Heimerdinger to scale up with the magic training. I think it's really great to find a strong set of synergies between your two anomalies. And yeah, that Gangplank is going to be doing some interesting stuff as well.
Yeah. Like, the Gangplank 3 stars with this range 3 stars is a
Wait.
very... Oh.
Ooh. Can we live around?
Mm.
I mean, it is a very good Elise. We have to see what happens this round.
It's a very good Elise, and it's a very good Twitch. But I feel like the Victor and the 3-star Gangplank are going to be a little bit too much here for this board from Silver, as the front line is down. The Elise is trying to do her best, but Silver gets eliminated. And while this does eliminate 8 Twitches, it also Silver is also getting eliminated here. And this opens the door for Wiglor, because there were three Illawis there for Silver, and Wiglor already has 6 Illawis and is waiting on 3 more from his Pandoras.
Yeah,
And
what's
we're
with
seeing
this,
Mai
what's with this
here
rolling
being really
down?
smart.
I think Mai's trying to play defense here. He has to alloy. He's denying Wiggler that 3-star alloy that he wants, but he just sold them.
Intriguing stuff. Now Wiglor, yeah, Wiglor still has all of that gold saved up. So the defense was played for a little bit, but it seems like Maya was really intent on getting an upgrade this round, and that might come back to bite them. It might be a little bit too much of a rush decision. Wiglor has an opportunity to make a comeback with that Alawi now.
He's holding Jinxes away from Wiglor, but I don't think Wiglor's main goal here is to find the Jinxes. I think the main goal is to find the Alawis. And Wiglor has gold. Wiglor has a lot of gold, so we could just potentially see another massive roll down happening here, as we see the Ambusher emblem and the Rebel emblem being put on the LeBlanc. This is a trade bot if I've ever seen one.
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking, because he has 2 reforges, he could try to do what he did last game again. It would have been funny to see that happen, but I think he wants to stay and play safe for now.
Yeah, that sure would be funny. I think that this is a good moment to roll lightly. You are going to be having a matchup against Parsival. I don't think Parsival is terribly strong. Wiglor needs to hold the line a little bit and find a way to outgreed in this situation. And remember, Wiglor took a first in game 1. This game is likely to be a top 2. It's guaranteed to be a top 3. So you've put yourself in an excellent position going forwards. Just don't give yourself no more room. I feel like he might be feeling the pressure a little bit.
Ooh.
I mean, we're on. Oh, that's a 2-star Mundo, so that's very interesting. Is going up against the Ghost here from Parsival, but is going to take actually a loss to it. But Parsival also takes a very heavy loss to Mai, but that is not the reroll that you want here.
It's a bit of a mix. I don't think they're holding on to Zoe's, but you probably would have liked to see that alloy a little bit more. And
Yeah, now you have a little bit of a conundrum. You want to be able to find some of these 2-star upgrades on your bench, the Echo and the Heimerdinger. And if you're able to do that, then you have the opportunity to roll them again. But we didn't have the opportunity then to change our positioning for Parsival, who just ran our stuff last round with the 6-pit fighter Gangplank. Repulsor, I think, is doing a lot of work here, getting Gangplank all of those extra casts, making that DPS more sustained. And despite the fact that Jinx and Zoe have been casting this entire fight, they're bad at dealing with these tall targets in Gangplank and Swain.
Ooh, this is going to be so difficult here, as we see 4 Jinxes for Mai.
I'm sorry, is Mai playing around Jinx line, or is Wiggler the one who needs the Jinxes? I don't know anymore.
It sure is interesting. I think Mai's playing some good defense on these two players, knows that they don't have to do anything crazy to win the game. I would
That
have loved to see something interesting, but yeah.
I wonder if Wiggler saw my shop right now, how would he feel?
A lot of
Well,
jinxes
we're gonna
out of the pool.
we're gonna see right now how he compares. But I do believe that Mai probably has it with that level 10 board.
Yeah, this is going to
Yeah.
be a tough. The only other question is who is Parsival fighting, and are they going to take a loss to Mai's Ghost? By what margin is the game going to be decided?
Ooh. He takes a bigger loss. Wiggler takes second place here. So first and the second for Wiggler. Mai, after a not so great performance in game number one, takes the victory in game number two. And this is, I think Wiggler is in a very commanding spot to secure himself a spot in the finals, even with the results from games number one and two. So I don't know about the math here. Our admin Heltic can update us here, but I think a first and second puts you in a very very commanding spot. I think with like a top four, a top five, you probably have it secured.
Yeah, almost undoubtedly, Wiglor has put themselves in an excellent position. You could even send it 8th place, but we don't want to see that. Absolutely resurgent performance. And then Mai took a 4th place in game 1. A 1st place in game 2 is a really excellent sequel. Want to see them close out, but it's already advantageous compared to something like another 4th. Yeah, that's 3 extra points. Mai's done really well for themselves.
Yeah, both players have done really well this game as well. But like, I do think that Wiggler, he probably has already locked up a place in the finals. We'll just see what he does next game as well. But it was a pretty good second game to watch nonetheless, especially with my 400 cash out hitting level 10 with that brilliant hedge fund like eco.
Yeah, completely agree with you there. Even though he didn't get the Silco for the 5 Cambarans, did manage to get a very good cash out. But gentle friends, that is going to be the end of game number 2. But don't go too far, as we have a game number 3 here in our semifinals, and we have a lot of places still up for grabs. So don't go too far.
Sinking my teeth in, and I won't let you go when I'm having fun till set fire to the fuse. Alone, I'm moving like a shadow. You're walking in my day.
Welcome back once again to the Ireland Esports Collegiate Series. We have our third and final semifinal game of the day, and Lobby 2 is looking very heated as two players have already made their way to the qualifying spots for the finals. That would be Wiglor and that would be Mai. We saw them both take victories in the first two games, but now it is up to the third spot, which is currently being held by, I believe that is Silver. And in the fourth slot, that's going to be really, really contentious.
Yeah, so looking at it here, my is, I believe, basically guaranteed even with an eighth here, and Wiggler has already qualified based on placements here with the first and the second. So congratulations to both of them. And now Silver has the next biggest shot with 12 points, like you said, Invective. But the fourth and final slot, if assuming Silver makes it, is going to be a vicious battle between Big D, Can and Crazy, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, and Parsival. Crazy also has a good chance. So basically, four people are vying for this last slot, with Parsifal having a little bit of better odds than anyone else. However, it is TFT. It is a little bit RNG based. Anything can happen in this game, and I'm going to ask you, Control. Who do you think is making it here based on the results here and based on their chances?
I genuinely think that Crazy has a best chance. But do you know what would be the greatest story? A comeback story. That is something that I personally would love to see, because not something you get to see so much. So I do want to see like Kong Kong or Big D, who I believe they're on the same points as well. So only one of them two could definitely make it as well, which is gonna be interesting to see. But it is going to be a very hard spot for the last. It's going to be a very hard fight for the last spot there. Four people going against it. It's going to be a very hard game for game three.
Yeah, it will be very hard fought indeed. I think that when it comes to this final game, if you're in the spot of someone like Big D or someone like Kankan, you are going to have to play for first place while also being able to deny your opponents some of their win conditions. So we've seen this type of gameplay here before. Mai was on top of their game in game one, denying Crazy some nocturnes for a large part of the game up until they were able to hit that heroic grab bag and get those lesser champion duplicators activated. If one of these players opts for reroll, I feel like you should expect that they are going to get griefed. On the other hand, Chem Baron is also something that we know that we've been primed to see in these games, and I believe that if one of these players opts to go for Chem Baron, they should watch out for their loss streak, because the other players are going to be fending them off.
Yeah, and you 100% can int a Cam Baron there, like we saw it happen to Mai when that win out of nowhere came in for him. However, Mai was so close to the 400 cash out that he still managed to turn it into his favor and get that victory going. But I don't think that you're going to get as lucky if you are my here or anyone else playing the Chem Barons here in this game number 3. And we're looking at it here. We have one random, as Body Shot Ben unfortunately had to drop out. So it is going to be interesting here, ladies, gentlemen, and emperors. If the random is actually going to be contesting one of our 4 remaining players vying for the final spot.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty funny to
unfortunate.
see the random.
No. It is funny. I'll say that. I think that is something that would be very frustrating if you were one of the players being contested by them, but that is the way that it goes sometimes. All that shimmers, I love to see it on 2-1, but is it a situation where you can play for the item that you get out of this augment later on down the line? That might be more difficult.
Ooh, looking at it here, we see the law enforcement coming in here. So, hide your the cops are coming in here, and the law enforcers are coming in for Kankan. So that means he's basically logging himself here into that enforcer line. But it's not too bad for to go there, because once you get those cash outs, it's going to be amazing. As we do see Silver here going for that rebel emblem. So I'm guessing we're going to see another rebel game, but this time it's not going to be from Wiglor.
Yeah, I think that Wiggler did find great success in the first 2 games with Rebel. So after seeing that, it is possible that we could get a pretty strong Rebel game again as well. But we'll have to see how it goes as we look at Wiggler's board right now.
I mean, this is looking fairly interesting. It's looking like a set. Like we have a set in the shop. We have a couple of Aurelias. So Wiggler always keeping the rebels close by in case the opportunity presents itself to play them. But right now, is going for that uh two conquer, two sentinel board just for the early game. And you have Mace's Will here, which is a very interesting augment. Offers you a lot of opportunities here, and a lot of leeway to transition into a couple of things. It doesn't necessarily force you into something. And Wiglor is taking a little bit of a loss here up against Big D, who went for Slammin and has an Infinity Edge on Zyra, which is not something we see every day, but hey, if it works, it works.
Yeah, it's looking sort of like an AD flex situation for Wiglor. I'm curious to see where it goes. I've heard that, you know, emissaries might be the best way to play this if you're not hard into Twitch. You don't have that Rage Blade activated. You can keep emissaries open and play around with Corki, but we've seen the emissary units be very consistently contested in these lobbies, and this one is shaping up to be interesting. I think Big D is one of those players that could contest it, but other players like Mai have this strong pit fighter opener with the Violet, and I think they might be angling for something like the boards that we've seen in the past, where that's a gangplank carry with a Swain front line, or one of these 8 pit fighter boards later on down the line. That Black Cleaver is going to be doing quite a lot of work for Shred and Sunder.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Black
looking at.
Cleaver.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
go ahead.
go ahead. No, the Black Cleaver Vi here is doing a lot of work, and it does help get my that 3-win streak. And he's in a very good spot right now with, I think, 4 or 5 Vi's on his bench right now for that Vi reroll angle, possibly.
Yeah, it is. It is looking like it here, but you already have 3 pit fighters. You're looking for a fourth one. You like you said. Uh, I wouldn't be surprised if this turns into a buy board later on, or maybe even uh a big late game pit fighter line. But the thing is, a lot of the other players here are starting to play into these pit fighter boards. Especially last game, we saw 3 people contesting each other for pit fighters. So it you really need to be creative in how you're going to stand out while still playing pit fighter and have the best board possible.
Yeah, Parsival, you can see that that 4 family situation has already been reached, but this board isn't necessarily going to win that many more rounds. And my main concern now is if you are going to force the family option here, uh, are we going to be able to reroll this effectively? If Big D contests us, if we have this sort of mixed streak in stage 2, then our econ might just not be strong enough. And Parzival's going to start taking another loss. Um, that's not a good sign. I feel like I'm starting to get worried.
It's looking a little bit like Dire Straits here. Uh, Parsival only has a couple of copies here and doesn't even have that good of an economy as well. So I I don't like this spot. Uh, I think you need at least a few of these two stars here for Parzival if you want to have a good game.
And like the problem with it as well, even because he does have Rebel Emblem as well, but we already know there's someone else in this game that is also contesting for Rebel. So Parzival's what? So Parzival's like training dummy. The emblems it has, it doesn't look that good anymore, especially when you contested both ways and you haven't got a great role for either or of the competitions there.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that you have to count on my taking a sort of business decision and moving away from the contested line, right? I think that Mai can certainly make the decision to keep re-rolling this situation, but must recognize that Parzival is almost committed by default, by Mortdog, by force majeure, to play the line that they've been given. And if that means that they come into a bunch of violets on the next turn as they do their stage 3 roll down, that means that we could end up losing some placements as well. So Parzival sort of has to count on Mai to make that decision, and we'll see if Mai is willing to pivot out of this situation into a more vertical pit fighter situation, for example.
I mean, yeah, you're really banking on others helping you out here, but looking at it here, Mai is leveling up to 5. Already has a couple of other pit fighters on the shop and on the board here. So we see Parzival rolling down here. Uh, yeah, it's not looking too great, especially because you really need that Violet to be online. You need that Vander to be your big tank, and ultimately you want Powder to get to that 3-star to have that little bit of extra damage from the backline, but it's not happening for Parzival here. You really need to have a big roll down.
Yeah, my other main concern is that the itemization doesn't look that strong. We do have some interesting hits. We do have the Gangplank upgraded, but on the next turn, we should be trying to play the Draven and the Darius for those beneficial synergies to start stacking Conqueror. That gives us benefits later on down the line for those units that we know that we're going to have on our board. So, right now, what are we looking for? We're looking for something that allows our units to start doing a little bit more damage, or allows us to hit a little bit more quickly. And that heroic grab bag makes a big difference in that goal.
Yeah, I think the heroic grab bag may have been the saving grace there for Parzival, but still, you're looking at a very heavy loss streak. You're 68 HP at stage 3 too, so you've already taken a couple of heavy losses here, and you're not having a really good game, especially with those roll downs, because you have hit a couple of 2-stars, but you really need to get those 3-stars rolling in stage 3. Otherwise, you're looking at an early exit in this game number 3. Whereas you have a lot of the other people who have hit a lot of so many beneficial augments, and they're now just looking to evolve their boards even further.
Well, as we can see right now here, Crazy with category 5 on the Zera, trying to trade out some units for time being. I do believe that the Zera might be the item holder for a time being, but it's still hard to say what line he's planning to lean in towards right now for a time being. As you can see on the other side, sorry.
So I believe, no, just to add to what you were saying, I believe we're going for a Twitch board,
Okay.
because Twitch can use category 5 very very nicely. You have someone like the Ezreal, who is also a very big beneficiary of category 5. But yeah, Twitch, we're looking to go deep into experiment, get that 5 experiment Twitch going, and because you also have a training dummy with experiment, you could potentially go to 7 experiment if you can get that Warwick.
Yeah, I'm liking it a lot. I think that it might even be more likely that, they play that 4 Watcher frontline with multiple snipers, and then you just have the ability to add an experiment on level 9. If you find a Warwick, if you find a Dr. Mundo, it all sort of adds up. I think that that could look really good to me, but Crazy is in a position where they need to stabilize really badly. That's the other piece of the equation. They can't just have those good synergies. You see all of these other players with powerful spots, with a lot of econ, or with other beneficial +1s to their trait web, and you have to start asking yourself, when is it going to be me? Because 62 HP, it's a very low total here at the stage 3 carousel.
Yeah, especially, and looking at Parzival as well, he has taken another loss here in as well. So I think Parzival is basically in the same situation where he has gotten a +1. However, he has not gotten any of the 3 stars he needs. So I think Parzival is also asking himself, when is my 3-star going to come in here? Whereas you have someone like Mai who has a 2-star Smeech as well, and already has a couple of these ambushers, so can easily transition from early pit fighters into this ambusher board, and maybe do Parzival a solid in that regard. But it's still really difficult really difficult spot for Crazy and Parzival. And Mai has an early, like I said, an early 2-star Smeech, and can definitely have a good game even if he transitions uh, to the ambusher line, because Smeech is still very powerful, and these ambushers can deal a lot of damage.
Yeah, I love this Smeech situation. I think that Mai has found the right line to play out of a early game where they could have reasonably contested someone like was it Crazy? Sorry that I don't recall. Uh but now we're in a position, we're level 7. We can slow roll for some of these ambushers, even though we don't have Chem Baron active. We have such a commanding HP lead, and we also have an augment that gets stronger if we lose. So when we ultimately get this Smeech 3-star, then we can extend our lead over the rest of the field. Now, Mai is basically already guaranteed to get into the finals here. But one more good performance, not quitting until the final bell has rung. I love to see that kind of competitiveness. I love to see Mai making the right kinds of decisions at this stage of the game.
Yeah, I completely agree with you here. It ain't over till the fat lady sings, and the fat lady is very far away from singing, especially in this game. But Mai, like you said, has an augment that turns more beneficial the more you lose. But Mai doesn't even want to lose at any of the rounds in this game. It seems like Mai is just saying, look, I'm going to have a good game. I'm going to make some smooth transitions, and basically there's nothing you can do about it. But someone we haven't talked a lot about, Big D, is sort of playing this interesting Sentinel Sorcerer board, which was something that was played a little bit in the early stages of this set, but has kind of fallen out of favor. And it's looking a lot more like it's going to be an academy board for Big D, and maybe we get to see some interesting situations here, as we see a LeBlanc and the Zoe. The Zoe is going to get rolled out. Big D just rolled away from 2 Zoes. He could have had a Zoe 2 here, so is Big D just going for legendary soup, maybe, or is he trying to go for these for the Academy Heimerdinger line?
Yeah, I'm
From
really
the looks
thinking
of
this is the Academy Heimerdinger line. I think that on that roll down, it might have been a little bit confusing because we didn't see so many of our primary units. It was hard to pick up some of our secondary units, but I believe that Big D needed to focus a little bit more on this Corki and upgrading this Heimerdinger and this Ezreal, but we missed a few of our more important units because there was a lot of interesting stuff that was shown to us on the way down.
Yeah, I mean, Control, if you're in this situation, what do you do here? Do you just take the Zoe 2 and try to go for those sorcerers, or do you kinda force a little bit onto this Heimerdinger?
Personally, like with the items he has, I believe he did have a blue buff during this whole like thing. So I do think the blue buff slightly limits the restrictions of the board he could play. So I think Academy does make sense here, but holding on to that 2-star Zoe, especially when you have a LeBlanc on the board, is also a pretty good choice as well because it is good to stabilize your board. It is good for board stabilization as well, especially when you're in a position where you need to get first to have that chance of winning to place in the finals. It would have probably also been a good idea to hold on to it to make sure you can have something strong or something you can pivot into as well if the items also made sense. But then again, because there was the Hextech Hexblade, the Heimerdinger does make a lot more sense. So I do think that Big Diki's call was fairly correct.
Yeah, we're gonna get to see some of our other players come through with their augment choices now. I think that this flurry of blows could be really, really intimidating for the late game as Silver pivots into this vertical rebel board with Zoe and with Jinx. But in order to get there, you're gonna need to either activate Ambusher for Jinx, which we don't have a Jinx yet, or we're gonna need to find a crit item for this Zoe, something like a Jeweled Gauntlet, also something we don't have yet. So Silver really strong right now, could fall off in a little bit, and needs to find itemization that gets them to the final destination here. Because if they do get to that final destination, if they do upgrade that backline fully, it's going to look really scary. On the other hand, Parzival took that max cap. They're now trying to fill out their board with that extra slot. And on level 7, there's still a lot of work to do to turn this all the way around.
Yeah, it's looking a little bit better for Parcel. Has hit that 3-star Violet, does have the 3-star Powder, Draven, and the Vander here. However, you still need the 2-star Vi, you still need the 3-star Gangplank, and while you are going to take a victory over Big D, Big D's board is not something that you can measure yourself up to here.
No, it isn't. I think Parzival is in a situation where they really need to find value that comes out. Ooh, there's a pan, and I believe if they get a tier, they can reforge that pan into a spat and then get a family emblem out of that combination. So there is a little bit more upside. There's a way to stay in the game, but we need to get to the Raptors. We need to stabilize with our anomaly, and then we can start stacking those family heists. That's the way back into the game for Parzival. But we need combat power first. We need to find something that goes in this extra slot.
Yep, so
Yeah.
although there is that possible ceiling, however, though, he does need to find that item first. But in order to find the item, you still need to be able to stabilize. So, well, never mind, he already has 5 family.
Wait, the tier was on the powder! Oh my gosh, we're so back!
We are so back. We have 5 family. We have the Vi 2. So this means that if we can get a couple of wins as Parzival, you're going to get rolling here. However, the biggest problem is the level cap does not bode too well with these extreme cash outs that can come in from the family. So it could be a little bit of a double-edged sword for Parzival coming down the way after a few of these cash outs come in. But first, you need to cash out, and then think about what you're going to do with the cash outs.
Yeah, but let me
Yeah,
say
and
this. Oh, no, you go ahead.
No, I was also going to mention as well, because you're playing the Vi reroll comp, another really important part is possibly that 6 pit fighter, which offers so much more like leeway and damage as well, especially also with the true damage and the heal. And because you took max cap there isn't that possibility, so you've kind of nearly already capped out your board, hence the name of max cap. So it is going to be hard to see, but I do think the family cash outs will have to say a lot to see if you can possibly hit some of those other ceilings.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. I think the max cap
Well-
does pose a little bit of a problem when you say you can't actually get any more units on this board. But on the other hand, if the family heists turn out items for us, we have a Draven to itemize. We have a Violet to itemize. The only thing that really concerns me is we're really digging for one of these anomalies, and I don't think we're getting the ones that we want to see. So, what's it gonna be? Cold the Weak
All the
goes
week.
onto Powder. I don't love it.
Not the best item,
Ah.
but it's best anomaly, but it's better than nothing, and especially because Powder likes to get those big executions. I think the ability power gains probably would have been much better for the Powder here. I believe we were looking something for the Vi, but you know, you take what you can get, and Silver takes a hefty loss here from Parsifal. So so that means that Parsifal is starting to at least get a couple of these wins going, and he gets a pan.
That's
Ooh.
intriguing
Oh.
stuff because you get another one, you can get another slot. That's what we were so worried about, right? I know that there is, an Easter egg to play for, but I don't think that the 6 cost odds are going to be particularly favorable here on level 7 and at the very start of stage 5. So we'll see. There are still a lot of rounds to play, and you look at the HP totals, Parsifal has started making a little comeback.
Speaking about the Easter eggs, there is one Easter egg I do remember, which is if you get the 3 different tacticians items, there is an infinite influx of gold, but I don't know how useful that would be, especially because you have max cap, your roll rates are at level 7. So there are a fair bit of problems. For example, you do need that really rare carousel for that to even happen. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
We do have to call out
just
something else here.
mm-hmm.
That would be the 7 experiment on this board, because Crazy has
Yeah.
found Warwick at the very start of stage 5. And now it's 7 experiment against 5 family, take it away Deadly Ghost.
I was about to say the same thing. You know, this is basically a capped out board from Crazy with the 7 experiment, and well, while you can't bring Warwick back to the family, you can certainly have Warwick tear down the family, as Parsifal takes a massive loss there and is taken down to 1 life. And this Warwick with 7 experiment and this 2-star Twitch with category 5 and the red buff are just looking at destroying everything that comes in their path. We're looking at Wiggler here, who we haven't touched in, we haven't really spoken to about, and he has a Triforce, a Collector, and an Infinity Edge on a Corki, and we're playing the Emissary Corki line instead of the what was more standard in the scrap line. But Wiggler seems to be having a fairly decent game. You know, on the cusp of breaking into the top 3, is going up against this board here from Parsifal, and it's not looking too good for Parsifal. Maybe Wiggler is going to be the one to take them out.
Yeah, Wiglord does end up taking out Parsifal. That's a frustrating loss. Parsifal did have a moment of hope, but I think that there was just a little bit power missing from the anomaly. There were items that ended up on Powder. I feel like we made a lot of AP items. That was one of the constraints that we had when we were playing that position. But it means at the same time, you don't have that much reliable DPS coming from your backline, so you lose out to some of these comps that have multiple carries, multiple sources of consistent damage, and a solid front line. These are fundamental things in TFT. Wiglor is probably not going to win this game, but he made a board that functions, and that is one of the advantages of the spot that he's in. On the other hand, you have one of these sort of more degenerate boards in this ambusher line. You got that extra spat. So I think that's going to be 5 ambushers on level 8. But at the same time, Ken doing really well with the 8 enforcer position with these carries being upgraded.
Yeah, it's looking a lot better for Can. does have a rumble here, so I believe he also had a rumble in the shop. So if can actually get that rumble, he can probably get a rumble too here. Uh, Another thing to point out is that Parsifal got eliminated in seventh, Big D got eliminated in sixth. So that means that Big D is out of contention for this slot for the finals. However, that opens up the possibilities for Can and for Crazy, who basically need a top two at least to qualify here. And with Parsifal getting eliminated in seventh, I believe mathematically that both Crazy and can make it if they get a top two or a victory here.
Yeah, I'm so curious to see what anomaly comes through here for Mai. I think that this is sort of a luxury anomaly. You already have a solid anomaly on Speech, but Brutal Claws on Echo is a welcome addition to the board.
If I remember correctly, I think I saw Brutal Claws earlier as well, and he decided to re-roll it out, but he decided to put out the Jinx instead of re-rolling it out, if I'm correct.
I think it was a situation of Mai having 50 gold and not wanting to go much below that.
I think this is a spot where Mai might be thinking, let's cap out as high as possible to try to get the best position in this game. And, we get to level 9, we upgrade the Jinx to a Jinx 2, then the Brutal Claws might be doing more for her than it is for Echo. I can see the rationale, but there are some very powerful players in this lobby. I don't know if Mai's going to be able to contest for the first against someone like Silver, who has activated their Brutal Claws, who is pumping out damage from this Rebel backline, and I don't even know if they have a Jinx yet.
No, they do not have a
Oh.
Jinx yet. It's just the Zoe doing so much damage here. However, you do have the Fury of Blows with the Dual Gauntlet, so that means that this Zoe is ramping up so much in Critical Strike, and every point of Critical Strike just gives us so much more damage here. And well, the Zoe, while not a Jinx, still deals quite a bit of damage, and uh, it it does mean that Silver is trying to contest the victory here from Mai.
Yeah, now as we head into this fight, I believe Crazy has gone down to truly one life. I don't know who was able to take them down to that point, but they are looking like a real menace for some of these other players in the lobby. At the same time, as I say that, Warwick has fallen, so it's just Twitch in the backline. And wow, they're out with 7 Experiment?
I don't think that was something on the book to expect. I don't... Huh?
I mean, I've been playing Rebels for all of this set, and I'm as baffled as you guys, because I knew 7 Rebels was strong this patch, but I didn't think it was this strong. Can we have a very quick look at Silver's Zoe, if possible, to see how much... Okay, so she also has the kill streak, and she has a lot of critical strike on her, so that critical strike damage is also amped up quite a bit. Yeah, the Zoe is kind of strong.
That's a lot of
now
gold.
Our players
Yeah.
have gotten that infusion, and does that mean that Silver wants to push it to level 10 in order to be able to cap out with a 6 cost as well as the Jinx? I think that's something that you could reasonably consider in the spot. Look at the people that you're beating in these fights.
Yeah, 100%. However, I do think that this board from Can might be the toughest one to beat, and that you probably can't as easily win against that, because Can has 8 Enforcers, 2-star Civica, 2-star Rumble, and 2-star Caitlyn. But that's a talk for a different round, because now we're going up against the Smeech and these ambushers, who are certainly taking the fight to these rebels. And Smeech just looked at that backline and said, "Come here! I'm going to devour you." And it's now all up to the Alawi, who cannot tank up anything. As Silver takes a big loss, Wiggler gets eliminated into fourth place, and it all rests now on whether can can break into this top two, can win out and secure himself a slot in these finals.
Yeah, now at level. Ooh,
Oh,
there are the jinxes.
Aw,
That's
we've been waiting for a
really
good while now.
impactful. But I think that there's one more piece missing, which is we want to activate Ambusher for this Jinx, as well as, of course, upgrading to her to 2-star. And we're in the tough matchup that you mentioned, Deadly Ghost. This is Can's board, and you can see how intimidating those Enforcer upgrades are looking.
yeah, I mean it's so
Wait.
difficult to look at. It is the ghost of Can, so it's not as powerful as it could be, but still the ghost board, which is at about 80% power, gave Silver so much trouble. So if the two boards go up against each other, we could have a very difficult matchup. However,
That is definitely a role that you would like to see. The 2-star Jigs, a Mel there just for that extra life, just in case. That
wow.
is definitely something you would love to see as Silver there.
100%. You get the Jinx too. You're basically looking for an Infinity Edge here on the carousel, or an Ambusher, and then your Jinx is going to be a very happy camper.
Yeah, as this fight begins, the backline is all clumped up for the side of Silver. I'm worried if Caitlyn sends a shot in that direction, but the damage keeps coming out from the Rebel board, and it's going to be over for Can. No, 1 HP left on the board.
Kong just getting out with the breath of his teeth there. That is absolutely amazing to see happen. And there is that Infinity Edge that you mentioned earlier for possibly that Jinx. Is it going to be taken though? That's the question.
Oh, this is
It
such
is an
a
option open for Silver, but where are they looking? What do they want to itemize next? It is going to be that Jinx. You want to get rid of something like that Runeeds. It doesn't do quite as much on her. I feel like that is one of those items you can pivot away. So great call on that, both of you. Con is going to reach level 10, but I don't know if there's a really strong play here. Just playing Bruiser, you get stronger, that's good, but are you going to be able to beat Mai? And then after you beat Mai, what about the fight with Silver once again?
Yeah, that's going to be a very difficult task of Can, who's going up against the ghost board of Mai. But the big problem is that Smeech can still jump up into that backline and have such a huge impact here. And the Caitlyn is focusing down the Smeech, but she jumped out of focusing the Smeech, and he's lucky that the Vi manages to take him down, because otherwise it would have been so difficult.
Kong lives to fight another day.
Lives to fight another day, and it's not a very long day. That's 1 HP, but there's still some time left. So I think that on the other hand, Silver actually didn't have a remover in order to be able to play that on the Jinx. So now we have an interesting looking Akali trio carry, but we know that Silver was able to win this matchup before. Now Silver has also graduated to level 10, so this is going to be a fight of some pretty capped out boards. We are going to be crowning a new winner here in the third game of the semifinals. So one of these players is going to be able to take that home at the very least, but it's going to come down to this, as the Rebels match up against the Enforcers, the Outlaws against the Lawkeepers.
I don't think this is going to last very long, but we'll see what the Vi can do. Vi does not get the ult out, and Kong is eliminated. Silver taking the third win.
Silver taking the victory here in game number 3. The Rebels proving all powerful once again, taking the wins in game number 1 and game number 3. Can with the 8 Enforcers eking out a second here. So I do believe that because a few of the other contestants ended up in bottom 4s, that may have pushed Can over the edge and over that threshold needed to get to finals. However, we are going to be waiting on a confirmation from our admin here. But congratulations to Silver on a game well played. Got that rebel emblem from the beginning. Managed to play very nicely around rebels, and even though he didn't have Jinx up until basically that last those last few rounds, he still made it work with the Zoe.
Yeah, I think it was really well played by carrying Ezreal for as long as he was able to in order to get to that final board. And then we saw the impact of Flurry of Blows, the way that Zoe was able to close out so many boards, so many fights. The extra critical chance on that unit, along with the kill streak, just made the spread of DPS so very impactful. And it synergizes well with Ezreal with the Rununs. It synergizes well with Jinx with her third cast with the Rocket. And the front line did last long enough to handle those melee carries that came out of Mai, that came out of Kankan. The Vi, the Smeech, they all got held up by the Alawi, they got held up by the Elise. So, another winner has been crowned. I believe before the game, Silver was in third place in this lobby. I wonder if they overtake Mai, but we'll see whether they're up to the same level in the finals because we have three very clear leaders in this lobby, and we have one slot that is still up for contention.
Yeah, and the last game as well, it was definitely a sight to watch. Rebels proving once again why they are probably one of the best comps right now. Again, getting a 1-2-1 record if I'm correct, first in first game one and second game two, and just first there as well. So it was definitely very interesting to see how it managed to win out so many comps because Ambushes, if I'm not wrong, it is a comp that Rebels does have a hard time beating out, but they also want that as well. And Aiden Forces with that really super itemized Caitlyn, they just couldn't get through the front line. And then when you hit the level 10, you also had that Mel as like a last resort just in case. That was just he just reached the ceiling. Silver he just hit his comp ceiling and he just took the game from there.
Yeah, 100%. And also another very smart decision that Silver did was at the last second move the Alawi in front of Caitlyn's face and Vi, and so the Caitlyn and the Vi were focusing down on that Alawi, who was taking up every bit of damage up until those last few seconds where it died, but and when it got there, when the Alawi died, she had already finished her job of tanking up everything, and the Vi couldn't do anything against the Zoe, who was already throwing out so many spells up against her. So very smart play from Silver here, and I couldn't be more excited to watch him play in the finals, which I believe he has 100% locked in a slot. So I believe we're waiting on our final few slots with tiebreakers and everything.
Yeah, so I believe Kankan is very close to being in the finals. I'm not 100% sure if they were able to reach that mark because as it stands, if they had won that game, they would have been to the finals. I'm not sure how it goes at the present moment, waiting for further updates from our admin.
Okay,
So
so I do believe we have the results out as well.
yeah,
So for Group B here, I think Wiggler, Silver, Mai, and Percival, they're going to make it to the finals. And then in Group A, Teal Kusaval, Hart, Scallywag, and Grub can melt steel. I think those are going to be our 8 finalists for the finals.
and looking at the list of finalists, I I'm not surprised to see a couple of names here, mainly our defending champion Intel Kusavai, but someone like Scallywag and Parzival, they were fighting for first place at the beginning of the tournament, so it's even though they may probably have eked out at towards the end here of the semifinals, they still managed to get to the finals, and I expect to see a lot of a lot of people trying to challenge Telkusvai for the win here, and we can't. I don't think we can count out Wiggler, who had these amazing performances, especially in game number one and game number two, and he still had a very respectable fourth in game number three as well.
Yeah, Wiggler really resurgent over the course of the season. I have loved to see all of these players compete today. As we get ready for our finals in about a week and a half, we'd like to wish you all very well and thank you for watching. A special thank you to The Real Control for being our guest caster this week as we enjoyed a tri-cast and figured out those dynamics. Before we go, we would like to extend a wonderful thank you once again to all of our sponsors, which are Dogpatch Labs, Coca, Stack, I believe Logitech, and 1 second, uh, I'm so sorry. GG Machines, Play Aid. Thank you very, very much for your assistance to the Ireland Esports Collegiate Series. This could not happen without you. Until next time, until our finals, signing off.